It's a real honor to be here today and to say a few words in remembrance of our friends and comrades who have gone before us into the great beyond. You know, when you think about high school, I don't know about you, but isn't it an amazing time? Because you come in and you're kind of just leaving childhood in a sense. And then you go through your 4 years, and the next thing you know, you're thrust into adulthood, ready or not, here I come. So I think that's one of the reasons that we tend to look on these 4 years that we experienced together as being a powerful influence for good or bad in all of our lives. One of the funniest stories that I like to share about my time at Blanchette was when I was in my first week of school. I was in gym class with Mr. Herbert, Wild Bill, and I was down there wrestling. I remember those t-shirts we had. He made us all, we put with felt pens. We didn't have the money to, put proper lettering or anything on, so we'd draw in felt pens. And I'm down there, wrestling with somebody, and all these guys are there, and we're wrestling, and all of a sudden, he calls out in that very distinctive voice, "Gentlemen, gentlemen," and we all freeze. And he looks out and he says, "Mr. Connelly." You remember how he used to say that? Mr. It's always Mr. "Mr. Connelly, please come up to the front." So I go up there, I'm thinking, hey, what a wrestler. I tell you, yeah, he's going to really tell everybody what a great wrestler I am, And I come up there in the front, and he kind of, I think, put his hand on my shoulder, and he says, "I want every eye to look at Mr. Connelly. Everybody take a good look at Mr. Connelly." And then he says, "This is the perfect example of a completely underdeveloped body." True story. Not the massive muscle you see before you. I think back on so many of my comrades, and one of the ones that certainly strikes me the most, and probably a lot of us remember him well, was Luke Little. You know how I met Luke Little? I was standing right outside here in front, waiting for a bus for the first football game that I would ever go to with Blanchette, one of the ones where Joe Steele was playing. And all of a sudden, out of my corner of my eye, I see this flashing thing coming towards me at high speeds. And the next thing you know, I'm flattened on the ground. And there's this guy sitting over me like this. And he says, "How you doing? I'm Luke Little." He says, "My friend over there dared me to come and tackle you. Nice to meet you. How you doing?" And, it was amazing, but I became very close friends with Luke, and Luke actually was my roommate I was over at Wenatchee Valley College, and Luke was actually one of my roommates, and he was the most amazing person. I remember one time we went rock climbing. He said, "Come on, you guys, let's go rock climbing." So we go rock climbing, and, just free form, no, none of the gear or anything like that. And we go out there, and I am literally like clinging to these rocks like, "God, if you get me out of this, I'll serve you for the rest of my life." I'm just petrified. And this guy was jumping, like leaping from rock to rock and laughing. He's trying, it's like, "Luke, if you fall, you're going to die. Come on, Connelly, just jump." He was fearless, was one thing about Luke. So when I heard that he died as a Navy SEAL, I was really touched, because Luke was certainly an adventurer. I will say that about Luke. Remember Luke's campaign for class president? Still remember that big sign, they had Luke Little doing a back scratcher, you have your skis up behind you flying through the air, and it said, "Get mass air, vote for Luke Little." Crazy times. Julie Bell was my first crush. I went to St. Catherine's with Julie Bell, and I remember being a little guy thinking, boy, she's the prettiest girl. I think probably a lot. I see Mike nodding his head over there. He's probably saying, "Yeah, I agree." I think we all had a crush on Julie Bell at one time or another. I remember playing with Tom, tennis. And you know, I remember Lisa Bordeaux, because I never got to know her very well, but this is really interesting. I remember I had one long conversation with her. And what I remember about her was her kindness towards me. And isn't that amazing? Just think about this. Here we are, 30-some years down the road. And when I think of her, my entire being smiles inside because she was kind to me. I think the reason we have memorials of whatever type and funerals is because there is a bridge between these people and us. There is a connection. And I think if we're honest, that all of us deep down know that that is true. That somehow a single life is an important thing. Just think about that for 1 second. What is the value of one single life? Some people say there's no value in one single life. Life is, just, we're here, we're dead, that's it. What do you believe? Jesus said of life, he said, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world, but he loses his soul? He saw life from an eternal perspective. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world? You can be Bill Gates today and have billions of dollars, and your whole life can be secure, and tomorrow you can walk outside and have a heart attack. So what is the purpose of your life? What's the meaning of a single life? What is the meaning of our fallen comrades? And beyond them, how many of you know a family member who's died? Maybe even recently. As we get a little older, it tends to happen. Our parents. I see my parents aging. My dad had, quadruple bypass surgery. I'm not getting old, but he is. What is the meaning of a single life? How have these lives touched us? And how can we honor the fact that they existed and that their life was important? I have an interesting story.